Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing Game Week 8 and looking ahead to my team selection for Game Week 9 and seeing how the wildcard is getting on so far. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. But without further ado, let's get into today's video. Before we crack on with today's video, I just wanted to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of these videos, OneFootball. If you've watched the videos on this channel for a while now, you do know that OneFootball are the best free football app or desktop application on the market. They give you everything you want in one place. And as I'm showing you on the screen today, this is what you can see when you're watching the games live or notifications for your phone. So you have live stats, you have a live ticker, you've got the lineups on there as well. So everything you need to know about the games to make your key FPL decisions you can get with this app. Like I said, at the end of all the games or during the games, I'm scrolling through, I'm looking at the different statistics. I'm also using the live ticker to see if anyone's had a big chance, who's playing well, who keeps cropping up. Sometimes you'll see Mo Salah, as you can see in this game. Sadio Mane had a few chances as well. And then also you can use it to see who scored and what the lineups were and what the different formations were. So I think it's very, very, very useful. I use it all weekend and during the week as well. As you can see on the screen as well, you can look at home and away form in the table as well. So if you'd like to download the best free football app on the market and support the channel for free, please do so by clicking the link in the description and downloading OneFootball. Oh dear, ladies and gents, the wildcard did not start very well, and it's sort of becoming a bit of like a meme in FPL or a tradition that when you play your wildcard, the week immediately after your wildcard tends to go pretty terribly, and often the team that you had before your wildcard outscores your wildcard team. So listen, it wasn't a great week, I know that. I was a little bit frustrated, a little bit annoyed about a few things, but obviously taking a step back, taking my own advice as well, self-distancing, which I discussed a lot in the book, I've discussed in my psychology videos in the past. I realized that I'm still very, very happy with 95% of the decisions I made on my wildcard. Yes, there are a few which, in hindsight, again, hindsight bias, of course, maybe they weren't the best decisions, but I'm really happy. I did so much research for it. I'm happy with all the decisions I made. It was just the case that a lot of the 50-50 decisions I made just went the other way. There were a lot of negative outcomes, a lot of things that were just completely out of my control. So if we start from back to front, Ramsdale, I knew what I was getting into with Arsenal. They can just have those games where they just look pretty terrible defensively, and they did against Palace. Palace have been pretty well. They have attacked pretty well in the first few weeks. Gallagher, we know, is fantastic. Benteke on his day can cause loads of trouble, but they did look quite poor defensively in that game. In general, they looked pretty poor as well. So yeah, Ramsdale, I knew what I was getting into. I knew he wouldn't keep clean sheets every week like the likes of Sanchez, but I'm hoping in the weeks that he does, he's more likely to get those hauls. And we saw that again. He did get a save point because he got 3 saves or 4 saves. So I'm still happy with my Ramsdale choice. I do think that Raya might have been the better choice, but that was a 50-50 call, and I'm happy sticking with Ramsdale. I'm glad I went with Trent. He looked really dangerous as always, got the clean sheet, and I think I'm happy to hold him moving forward. And the reason that I went for Trent, if you missed my last team selection video, is I just said it's a lot easier to move away from Trent than to move back to Trent. If I'd have gone for like a Kyle Walker, who was probably the person I would have gone for over Trent, or like a Shane Duffy, to then try and get back to Trent in like game week 15, 16, whenever I want him, it's going to be incredibly difficult to do. So I'm happy I went with Trent. The James Chilwell 50-50 call was the big swing. I'm still happy with my choice. I still maintain that James has the least competition at right wing back. Chilwell, I think, versus Alonso, he has a lot more competition. And I still maintain the fact that James has better attacking threat. He's slightly lower on goal threat, but he's significantly higher in creativity when he plays. And so I do still think that James has the best underlying statistics and has the least competition. We knew the big issue with James is that when he doesn't start, he's much more likely to cameo off the bench. So I can't complain about him getting a 1-pointer. That is the risk that I took going for him over Chilwell. So I'm still happy with that decision. I would like to have Chilwell in my team as well as James. I'd like to have James and Chilwell. But I'm not going to bring in Chilwell for any of the current defenders, I don't think. I'm really happy with my back four. I'm really happy with Livramento on the bench as well. So I'm not going to bring in Chilwell anytime soon, but I think if you went for Chilwell, you're laughing. You're already 14 points higher than I am for this week. Cancelo and Diaz, again, really happy with. Diaz benching was so random, and not only a Diaz benching, but also Diaz coming on for a 1-pointer. You'd think if Diaz is going to be rested, he would be rested, and it was against Burnley, so there was no need for him to come off the bench, really. So a little bit disappointing in that. Cancelo, really happy with. I think he'll continue to play most of the minutes. Shame he didn't get any attacking returns or bonus points, but I'm very happy anyway. You can see I had the vice on him because I thought he was a fantastic option, but I didn't need it in the end. Very annoying that James and Diaz both made cameos. I know I said I can't be annoyed by it, but the reasoning was that I had Livramento on the bench waiting to come on with his 6 points. I even had Norman with 3 points. So if I could have got Livramento and Norman come on, that would have been 9 points up. But instead, I've just got the 2 points from James and Diaz combined. So I am happy with the defence moving forward. And I think the thing is, the fact that Diaz was benched, that's probably his first benching for a while. He's probably not going to get benched for the next, I don't know, 10 game weeks. He doesn't get benched very often. So hopefully he's got that benching out the way now. And James, I'm happy that at least he came on because that shows that he's fit enough to play some minutes. I'm obviously recording this before the Champions League. I don't really know what I want from the Champions League with James. Hopefully he plays some minutes, but not 90 minutes. And then I'll say he looks fit enough to play, but he's not getting fatigued. So I am really happy moving forward. And I think this back four will be really, really solid moving forward. The midfield four, it all went up in the air when that Son news came out that Son had COVID. I was so set on my midfield. I loved the fact that I had Son. He was the only person nailed in every single draft alongside Salah and Cancelo. It was the three of them. No matter what I do, I've got those three in there. Son is definitely in my team. The news broke that Son had COVID. And I know a few people have said, "What, you're an idiot," not necessarily to me, but people are idiots for listening to that Son news. It was clearly rumours. I don't know why you listen to rumours on social media. It wasn't a rumour, it was a fact. Son tested positive for COVID. So when we get the news from very reliable in the know accounts that Son tested positive for COVID and that he would be out for 3 games, 2 Premier League games and 1, I think it was Europa Conference League game, it would have been crazy to keep Son in your team knowing that he had tested positive for COVID. What then transpired after the deadline was that it was probably a false positive, and after testing positive for COVID, he then had 2 negative tests and was therefore allowed to play. But in the craziness of all that, because Son was out, I decided to keep my team the same and just replace Son pretty much. I did make one other move, which we'll discuss in a minute. But pretty much the only change was I brought in someone else for Son. And that person that I brought in for Son was Mahrez, because I thought my team was very, very well set up for the long term. I had a lot of good long-term picks, and I thought, do you know what? I'll take a 1-week punt on Mahrez. He's so good when he's playing. I was fairly confident he would start, which he did. Unfortunately, it was probably one of the most terrible performances I've ever seen from Riyad Mahrez. He was genuinely absolutely shocking. So I'm absolutely gutted about that. I watched the full 90 minutes waiting for him to do something, and he was probably the worst player on the pitch alongside Raheem Sterling. So that is very, very disappointing. Salah, captain, he is the GOAT of the Premier League. He's the GOAT of FPL as well. He's definitely working his way towards the case where you say you captain him against pretty much everyone. Maybe not Chelsea and City, even though he scored, was it 13 points again against Manchester City last week. But I think he's definitely making a case to be our captain 95% of the time now. So I'm really happy with him. Mbomo was actually on my bench. So I had started Armstrong, which we're going to discuss in a second. And then Mbomo came on for Armstrong. So I didn't want to start Mbomo and Tony against Chelsea. So I started Armstrong and Mbomo came on. He hit the woodwork twice. He has now hit the woodwork 6 times this season. 6 times. I think the closest to that is 1 or 2 times to hit the woodwork. So he's getting close to those monster hauls. He's getting close to finishing on a regular basis. He looks brilliant, and I'm so, so glad I've got him in my team. And then Saka. So I went for Saka over Rafinha because I realised I had Mahrez, James, Cancelo and Diaz. And then I had, I think those are it pretty much for the rotation risk. But I realised I had maybe 3 or 4 rotation risks. I had a £4.5 million midfielder as well. And I identified that if I then went for Rafinha as well, who was very unlikely to play, I could have had like 6 players potentially miss out. So I went for Saka because I knew I might need the player this week. And when you compare the underlying statistics and the fixtures for Saka and Rafinha, they're virtually identical. Their expected goal involvement's pretty much identical, and the fixtures, difficulty-wise, are actually slightly better for Arsenal. So I thought I'll go without Rafinha. I'll go for Saka because I know he'll pretty much definitely start this week, or he'll at least play some minutes. He looked pretty shocking in the first half, as did Arsenal. But then I obviously didn't anticipate James MacArthur treating Saka like a kicking bag. What a terrible challenge, by the way. That is the most obvious red I've ever seen in my life. He was nowhere near the ball. He wasn't attempting to kick the ball. Not only did he not attempt to kick the ball, he deliberately kicked Saka and followed through once he made contact. So I'm gutted about that because I think he could have done something in the second half, and at the very least, I could have held him long term. In my opinion, which we'll discuss in a minute, I don't think that's going to be a long-term injury. But at the time of recording this, I unfortunately don't know the extent of his injury. I couldn't wait much longer to record the video, unfortunately. I think by the looks of it, it was probably an impact injury. So you're looking at probably a dead leg in the calf or just some bruising around the bone if it was a really deep kick, which it looked like it might have been. So he might be out for a week, but I can't see that being a really long-term injury because he didn't twist anything. I don't think he would have done the ligaments. So it's probably just an impact injury. And then I put Norman on the bench, who I didn't really discuss. I was going to go with Brownhill, but because I had an extra little bit of money, I decided to go for the midfielder with the slightly better attacking threat. And in my opinion, alongside Douglas Luiz, who's now up to 4.6 million, Norman is probably the best budget enabler in midfield that also has some decent underlying stats. You can see he got 3 points. He looks like he's going to be starting for the foreseeable future. He might miss the odd game because they have a little bit of depth in the midfield, but I'm really happy with that. And then the front three. We'll start with Lukaku. He's not looking great, is he? But the fixtures are so great going forward that I can't see myself selling him ahead of Norwich, Newcastle and Burnley. We'll talk about him a little bit more in the next section, but 2 points is a little bit disappointing. He did put the ball in the back of the net, but it was offside, so it didn't count. You can see I've got Tony in there. I didn't backtrack on my decision. I know I said I was going for Hwang over Tony. The reason, again, I went for Tony is because I realised I had James Cancelo, Diaz, Mahrez, potentially Saka, who doesn't start every single game. I realised that I had a few rotation risks going forward, and I didn't want to bank in the transfer of Hwang to Tony again, and I had money in the bank because I went from Son to Mahrez. So I decided to go for Tony as the long-term pick, and I'm glad I did because I now have Tony and Mbomo moving forward for their great fixtures. So whilst I didn't really want two Brentford players against Chelsea, they both almost ended up scoring, and I'm really glad that I've got Tony moving forward now. And the third one was Armstrong. Probably more so than anything in this entire team, more so than Diaz being benched, Armstrong being benched was the biggest shock to me. I'm genuinely shocked. I could not believe it. He started every single game. He's played almost every minute for Southampton. All Ralph Hasenhüttl does is praise how brilliant Armstrong is. And then he's just randomly not only dropped, but doesn't feature for a single minute. It just came out of nowhere. Broha and Redmond started up top, and they did a fantastic job. And that does worry me moving forward, that Broha and Redmond linked up well. They looked a real goal threat moving forward. Broha in particular looked fantastic. I'll talk about it in the next section. I'm not too fussed moving forward. I think he might start again, but really disappointing this week because the fixture was so great, and I really genuinely expected him to play against Leeds. So listen, the wildcard was disappointing. 51 points isn't great. I went from 32k to basically 60k, so I almost doubled my rank. I'm really happy with my overall rank still. To be 60k at this point, to still have not dropped out of the top 100k, I'm delighted. Let's take a look at Game Week 9 and see if I'm going to be making any transfers, and if I am, where those transfers might be. So guys, it's going to be a slightly different setup to usual when I'm going through my team, because you wouldn't have seen my finalised wildcard team. I've presented it like this on screen. And also the reason for doing this is at the moment, I'm not entirely sure who I want to bench and who I want to take out. I obviously have to record these videos slightly early in the week. And as you know, I'm a very patient manager. I'm pretty risk averse with my transfers. And I also prefer information over team value. So I will always wait until just before the deadline to make my moves. Even normally, if I'm going to be priced out, I'll just change the player I want. I just think that information for me is more valuable than team value. I'd rather end up having to make a downgrade somewhere, but having more value, more information when I'm making my transfers. So at the moment, this is my full team of 15. This is the way I set up on my wildcard. Just quickly, I'm not going to change my keeper, and I'm not going to change my defenders for the foreseeable future unless something arises, like unless James is benched like 4 weeks in a row or something, or unless I really need an attacker, I might downgrade Diaz to Duffy to get some funds or something like that. But relatively speaking, I'm happy with a back five, and most weeks, pretty much every week, I suspect Livramento will be first or second sub, and I'll start with a back four of Cancelo, James, Trent and Diaz. Obviously, in some weeks where maybe Manchester City have a really difficult fixture, I might start Livramento ahead of Diaz just because he's got a bit of attacking threat as well. But largely speaking, I'm happy with a back five. I'm not going to be making any transfers there. If I do make transfers in the coming week or two, it will probably be in the midfield five or the front three. Mbomo and Tony, I'm really happy with moving forward. Salah and Lukaku, I'm really happy with moving forward. I know Lukaku's looked pretty poor at the moment, so have Chelsea, really, considering how good they have been in the past. but I'm not really comfortable moving Salah on at all. And I just think I've got to keep Lukaku for these 3 fixtures. Normally, we say that form over fixtures. That's a common debate. Some people say that form is more important than fixtures. I would argue that fixtures breed form. So often, yes, form is sometimes more important than fixtures, as we've seen with Salah. But sometimes nice fixtures for a good team can breed that form, and Lukaku could go on a great scoring run. Norman, I'm happy to keep. I'm not going to start moving around my £4.5 million midfielder. So that essentially leaves 3 spots in my team which are open to debate. You can see Saka, I've got the little caution flag next to, because at this stage he is technically injured, but I don't know how long. If he is injured long term, he will be my transfer out this week, probably for Rafinha. It's just a really straightforward transfer. I've got 0.9 million in the bank, but I need to wait for that news. Again, even if we get news that it looks like he's out long term, I probably will wait until I get official news one way or the other. Just we've seen what happens with the rumours before in the past. I'd rather wait for confirmation from Arteta. So Saka's, I'm not sure at the moment. If he's only out for 1 week, or he's maybe touch and go, just because of his fantastic price, the fact that his underlying statistics are relatively good and the fixtures coming up for Arsenal are pretty nice, unless he's out long term, I might just hold Saka on my bench. And then you can see the bin emoji next to Mahrez and Armstrong. This is because I really want to put both of them in the bin, if I'm being honest, for different reasons. Mahrez was always a 1 week punt, so it's probably quite harsh to put a bin next to him, because I always planned on basically having him for 1 week, maximum 2 or 3, but likely moving him out after 1 week. That was the plan. However, the fact that Armstrong has lost his place and Saka might be injured has maybe thrown a spanner in the works that maybe I have to keep Mahrez now. I don't really want to. But if Saka's injured and if Armstrong has indeed lost his place, it seems strange to spend a transfer on a player who can be explosive, and we never really know what's going on in Pep's head with his Pep roulette. So Mahrez, due to the fact that he's a real rotation risk and he just hasn't looked fantastic recently, and Armstrong because of his random benching, they're the 2 players alongside Saka I'm considering moving out. However, I'm recording this on Wednesday morning. Mahrez scored a brace. It was against Club Brugge. One of them was a penalty, but it was interesting to see that he is definitely on penalties. Even when De Bruyne is on the pitch, that makes me want to keep him, because if he starts and he finds the form he got against Club Brugge when he scored the brace, and he's on penalties, even against Brighton, which is a very tricky fixture, it really tempts me. And I know I shouldn't, because in all honesty, I would be extremely shocked if Gabriel Jesus doesn't start on the right wing. I just can't see Gabriel Jesus being dropped for 2 games in a row. Obviously, because of his international duty, that's why he missed the Burnley game. But he was so good before the international break. He's been so good all season. I just think he snaps that right wing spot back up. So I think maybe I'm looking for some sort of confirmation bias to keep Mahrez. I think potentially Mahrez out is the sensible move. I'm going to be keeping Armstrong for 1 more week, I think. I'll try and remember to flash up on screen. There was a brilliant thread by someone on Twitter. I can't remember the name, but if I flash it up on screen, you'll be able to see them. Go drop them a follow. I followed them after this because it was a great thread. It showed that last season, Hasenhüttl benched Danny Ings in both games against Leeds. So even Danny Ings, who's fantastic, both games, Danny Ings missed out against Leeds. And I think it's due to the fact that, and again, Armstrong is a very similar-ish sort of player to Danny Ings. He's looking for energy and legs and running in behind. Again, Armstrong is a relatively quick player and he can run in behind. But I think potentially Broha and Redmond suited the Leeds game potentially more than Armstrong. So there are a few rumours and murmurings that potentially it was a tactical decision just to drop Armstrong for this game, as opposed to dropping him because he's not been very good. Because like I said, Hasenhüttl has made many positive comments about Armstrong before. So I think there's potential that Armstrong comes back in for the Burnley game. So I might end up starting him. At the very least, I'll probably end up keeping him, because if Saka's injured, I think that's more of a priority. And if Saka's fit, I might either roll the transfer or use the transfer to get rid of Mahrez. So that's my current thinking. I do apologise that it's not more like clear cut and conclusive. That was difficult to say. I apologize that I can't say this is the move that I'm making, but that's what's going through my head. The 3 players in this team that I'm considering moving out are Armstrong, Mahrez and Saka. So let's take a look at my current thought process and how my team would set up if that is the way. So guys, here we go. This is how my Game Week 9 team selection will look. I just realized on the other graphic it said Game Week 8 team selection. I do apologize. I've corrected that for this graphic. So this is my team set up for Game Week 9. As I said, almost every week, even when someone like Trent has a trickier fixture, I just think that the reason I've chosen these 4 defenders is they are premium price, right? But they're premium in their attacking threat as well. Yes, Livramento does get forward, and yes, the fixture is almost definitely better for Livramento this week. But I just think that these 4 defenders offer so much with respect to their defenses are so good, and apart from Diaz, the other 3 have such great attacking threat. I do have a sneaky suspicion that this might be a week that Cancelo sits out. The only reason that I will still start him is I think that Brighton, and Pep knows this, is a really tricky fixture. So, yes, I think that Cancelo is due a rest, I guess, although I don't really like saying that too often. Whilst he might be due a rest, I'm not sure that against Brighton is the fixture to it. It might be against Palace, just because Brighton are so good. That being said, Brighton are more of a defensive team. I don't think they're going to cause City too many problems going forward. So maybe it's a Zinchenko and Kyle Walker kind of game. I don't really know, but I will continue to start this back 4 for most weeks. You can see I've got the vice captaincy on Reece James. Of course, I'm recording this before Chelsea's Champions League game. If I've got any inclination that is going to start at the weekend, I genuinely am really tempted to captain him because I think there are reasons to not captain the other premiums in my team. I can't see Norwich scoring, and he is so good going forward. I probably will bottle it, but I've put my vice captaincy on him for now. I've got a midfield 3 with the current setup and the players that I'm considering. So this team selection, the transfer that I've made is assuming that Saka is only injured for 1 week or is fully fit. I've transferred out Mahrez and brought in Rafinha. I'll be honest, I don't really fancy Leeds at the moment, and I don't think Rafinha's fixtures are that great going forward. I really like the Norwich game in game week 10, and that's probably one of the main reasons. The reason I've gone for Rafinha is, again, I think I've got a few issues in my team still in the fact that James and Cancelo and Diaz are never completely nailed. I've got Norman as a 3rd sub as opposed to like a Smith Rowe, so I don't really want to go 3 subs deep. And Armstrong, if I am wrong and he doesn't start this weekend, then Armstrong is another issue. I sort of just want to get a player in place of Mahrez that I know is going to start every game. So this is a really safe and boring transfer, I suppose. I'm just putting in a player that I know will start most games and can tick along nicely, and that's what I've done with Rafinha. What I would say is if Saka is 1,000,000% fit and Arteta goes, yeah, it was just a knock and he's in training, fully training, I might roll the transfer and I might bench Mahrez. That sounds crazy to bench Mahrez, but I don't expect that many goals against Brighton because, like I said, there are a very, very good defensive unit. And I also do expect Jesus to start. So all I would do is put Saka in place of where Rafinha is, and I wouldn't bring Rafinha in and have Mahrez on the bench. That would allow me to have 2 free transfers next week. So that is another option, is that I just don't make a transfer because I really shouldn't be having to make a transfer the week after a wild card. So there are my options at the moment. At the moment, if Saka is injured or I'm not sure and he's touch and go, I'll probably bring in Rafinha for Mahrez. The other option instead of Rafinha is Mason Mount. Not only for that Norwich game going forward, but we know how good Mount is when he plays. He's so creative. He'll create lots of opportunities for Lukaku. And I think Thomas Tuchel's starting to realise how creative Mount is and how important he is for that team. So I don't think that Tuchel's going to stick to the 3-5-2. I think he'll go back to either a 3-4-3 or maybe a 4-3-3, and we'll see Mason Mount on the right wing. So Mason Mount is also another option. But like I said, because I have other issues in my team potentially, especially Armstrong maybe, I think I might just go for the safer option in Rafinha. I don't necessarily think Mbomo and Tony against Leicester are great fixtures, but Brentford just look fantastic and Leicester haven't looked great at the back. They're starting to look significantly better going forward now, especially Jamie Vardy. So I still don't mind playing Mbomo and Tony. Ideally, I'd probably like to start one and bench the other, but the way my team's set up with Saka potentially being injured as well, it probably makes sense to just start the 2 of them. They're definitely going to start and Brentford look great. Like I said, I think I'm going to start Armstrong this week. Maybe, probably. I just think that if he does start, the upside is there against Burnley, who have looked pretty poor. They looked slightly better against City, but I think more so it was just City didn't fully click in that game rather than Burnley were amazing. You can see at the moment, Lukaku does not have the captaincy armband. The reason for that is because I think if he plays any minutes at all against Malmo, he has a slight rotation risk. We saw the quote come out from Thomas Tuchel. Again, I'll try and remember to flash that on the screen. We saw the quote come out from Thomas Tuchel that said that the reason that he thinks Lukaku's had some sort, I think it's 6 games in a row for club where he hasn't scored, is because Lukaku's played too many games and he's slightly fatigued. So if he starts him against Malmo, Norwich might be the game that he could sit out. I personally think, and again, it's a shame I'm recording this before the Champions League game, I personally think that there's a chance that Lukaku sits out or has his minutes managed in the Malmo game and then starts the Norwich game personally. So do have an eye on what happens in the Champions League game. I think if he plays 70 minutes or more in the Champs, then he could potentially be rested in the Premier League games. So that's something to keep an eye on. If I've got any doubts, I'll probably just captain the man who's got the armband at the moment, which is Mohamed Salah. That means that on my bench, I would have Norman against Chelsea, which is, again, I don't ever want to really start Norman, but he's there if I need him. I've got Saka, assuming he's touch and go or injured, as my second sub. And then I've got Lively Livramento, first sub, who's got Burnley at home. I'll be honest, I really want to start Livramento. I just don't really feel comfortable normally benching attackers for a budget defender. And I also think that the 4 defenders that I've got are probably better starters than Livramento. And I do think that one of these players will probably end up missing out in some form. So I've got Livramento first up if I need him. So that's my current team ahead of game week 9. Let me know down below what you think I should do with my team. Do you think I should be starting Livramento? Obviously, if Saka news comes out that he's fully fit, like I said, he'll probably be in the starting 11, and I probably won't bring in Rafinha, and I'll just bench Riyad Mahrez. I'm still really happy with the wildcard. I might have made a few mistakes here and there, but I think I'm set up really well moving forward, and hopefully it'll be a green arrow after a massive red arrow that we experienced this week. Before we finish today, I just want to give a massive shout out to our wonderful members, the Raptor Hall of Fame, the legends that have decided to support the channel. Just a reminder, you can support the channel by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button, or by clicking the link in the description that says, if you want to become a member, click this link here. It's growing at a crazy rate. So many members and so many wonderful members as well. And I've spoken to most of these guys one-on-one, especially the Rap Tier 1 members, of course. Just thank you so much, whether you're Rap Tier 2 or Rap Tier 1, whether you've just signed up or whether you've been a member for 1 month plus. As you can see with Nipperchan, Andre, Johnny, Sean, Stephen, Carl and Jordan, they've now transitioned from the Raptor logo to the green Raptor logo because they've been a member for a month. When you've been for 2 months, it's blue, 6 months bronze, 12 months silver, and 2 years will be gold. So that's why you can see some of the badges are different colors here. Just a reminder, if you want to sign up to a Rap Tier 1 membership, you get entered into our amazing group chat over on Twitter, where we chat about FPL, football, etc., and we help each other out with our teams. There's also a Raptor mini league as well, which Rap Tier 1 mini league, which is really cool as well. So there are some perks, but the main reason that you would be doing this is just to support the channel. For those of you that don't want to support the channel, all my content will continue to be free. Don't worry about that. It's just for those of you that want to go the extra mile and help me out wherever possible. So massive shout out to all of our amazing members. I appreciate you all very, very much. So guys, there you have it. That is my team selection, or my proposed team selection ahead of game week 9. Let me know what you think of my eventual wildcard. I'm pretty happy with it. Of course, there are a few decisions that maybe could have gone a little bit better, but in generally, I think it's important not to beat ourselves up and to own the decisions we've made, and I am really happy with my team moving forward. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, there are 4 things you can do to support me. You can like, comment, subscribe, and also download OneFootball for me. It is free. There is a link in the description, and it means that OneFootball might consider extending the partnership, which would obviously help support the channel as well. So please do those 4 things if you are enjoying the content. But until next time, guys, thank you very much. Bye-bye.